There is some disturbing news. Well, apparently it's unexpected news. It's bad news. So the links of like most of the animals that died, it's weird because the amount of animals that died, it's kind of weird how they died. It's all within 1 year. Um, so now, I actually, even though some pets die due to old age or being separated, apparently the first one to start with is linking them, in order to get to the point we are at now. So apparently, I think it was last year, the cats did get separated, well, my mum's old cats, and then each one of them died, due to being separated. And then apparently, let's skip a year. So this year, the Unicorn Center, a horse called Tinker died, which I actually stated beforehand. And then, in February, which is this month, Annabelle died, at some point, which was my channel's anniversary, which this is what reason why I didn't want to, do like an anniversary on that day because that's when my dog got put down, unfortunately, because she wasn't feeling very well. So apparently her death was, so apparently Annabelle's death was the 17th, and so apparently if we go, okay, that's not right. Okay, so apparently if we go about a couple of weeks later, Romeo and Juliet died today on the 27th, unexpected. Now, I'm actually thinking it's not a normal cause. Usually, they were very happy. They seemed all cheery and whatever. I can't think it could have been, I don't think it could have been, old age, because it didn't seem like, old age, otherwise they would have both been lazy as hell. But it kind of looked more like they actually were excited. I mean, they were happy yesterday. So it kind of felt like it, that, that they actually were happy today. Apparently Romeo actually was in the corner when I fed him, so I was thinking, odd. He's not really moving around like he's, like usually hyper like he usually is, which was kind of odd, when I actually fed him. I mean, he was talking, which he usually does because he likes to talk. Juliet, on the other hand, actually was a bit more active than Romeo, for a change, which is weird, which is kind of weird for me. Because usually Romeo's the one that's usually active because he usually bothers Juliet, a lot, since that's his personality. He has a cheeky personality. So the weird thing is, after I fed him, it was kind of weird. I felt something was wrong with Romeo, even though he was talking normally, but he wasn't moving like he should. Okay, so apparently I go upstairs, apparently, do whatever, and then hours later, I get a shout from my mom and such, that the birds are, struggling, whatever, like something's up with them. So I rush down in a panic, and find that the birds fell, up. So I actually, got told that, Romeo was the first one to fall, which was about nearly the same time, as falling. Now, Juliet was apparently wobbling from what I, got told. She was clanged upside down trying to hang on, but she eventually fell. Now, Romeo was struggling to actually, get out of that situation, but he was injured, unfortunately. He was trying to flap, to fly, but it just was affecting him. He couldn't walk. So I tried to hold him. He apparently struggled out of my grip, and he fell on the floor. But he was still alive, unfortunately, so I got my hand, scooped him, whatever, in a gentle kind of way, which I usually always do with, Romeo and whatever, especially Juliet. So I kind of held him on the floor and whatever, and I was panicking because I was like, we need to get them help, and whatever, but, we felt like, oh, that we couldn't because they were gonna die anyway. I even apparently tried breathing into Romeo's nostrils and whatever, uh, to see if he would, kick back and breathe again, but no, he just died. And then I checked Juliet, she was still alive, but she looked like she was actually still breathing, but she was apparently still struggling to walk. So I grabbed her, she bit me. And whatever. So I kind of put it back and whatever. And then apparently, someone else grabbed Juliet and whatever. I think it was Granite. So he actually grabbed her and whatever. Apparently she did eventually stop biting. Just kind of like she felt like something was wrong. So she apparently knew that she shouldn't be biting, because she basically realized we were trying to help her. So she was, basically screeching. We actually showed her Romeo, because he died, unfortunately. She wasn't really very happy, unfortunately, because she was struggling as well, so to, like, survive through what she was going through. So eventually, in the end, I was still questioning about getting them to, like, a pet store to get help or whatever, because there could have been someone that knows how to help them, through illnesses and so on, but there was nothing we could do, really. Julie actually did die in my granddad's hands, so we couldn't really do anything, which was sad. So then we, talked for a while about them and whatever, talked about, like, which one was a bit more tame and which one actually wasn't so tame. So out of the birds, Romeo actually was the one that was tame. That's why he didn't bite me when I picked him up when he was, hurt and whatever and such, because previously he actually did witness another bird of the same color die before his eyes, and that was the first Julia I got. Unfortunately, she was the one that died before, nearly died before him, but she was lucky because she got to the pet store. But the second Juliet did not. Unfortunately, she actually did die. So it is horrible to witness a bird's death, especially when something like this happens. So I kind of think, I don't think it's old age, because otherwise they would have acted, old and such, stuff like that. So I don't think it's old age. I don't even think they were lonely either, because they had each other. They were always happy. They were always messing with toys. Because unhappy birds don't really mess with toys or anything. They just, like, sit on a perch like Pikachu did, because he was alone. But apparently with Romeo and Juliet, they actually had each other. They were actually extremely happy. They were, they felt happy no matter how many years went on. They actually loved to sit next to each other and swing and whatever. So apparently seeing that happen makes me think that, of one possible illness that could have killed both of them in one go. So the one thing that I could think of that actually killed them both could be the aviary flu, which is most common in birds. Now, I think that most likely killed them both, because Romeo definitely seemed a bit odd, stranger than he did yesterday. Yesterday he was fine. Today he just felt like he just didn't want to move around as much. So that could have been a sign that he had the aviary flew or something, even though he didn't have fluffed up feathers or anything, so I was sort of caught off guard, because I didn't know, so it kind of felt like Juliet ended up catching it quickly, so she got it and then eventually she died and whatever, so, I mean, basically from like the news and such, there is a lot of aviary flu going around, because it has happened with, a lot of birds, I reckon. Yeah, so I reckon it basically there's a lot of ways the aviary could spread. Because I think the aviary is actually airborne. I think it's airborne, and especially if they don't touch each other. I think it spreads through birds. You know what I mean? The airborne just like goes through the air and then spreads to another bird, and then another bird gets it, and then another bird gets it, and then so on and so on. So, most likely, I think it could be to do with the birds outside the back garden or something. Like, some probably had it and then it came inside the house, the aviary flew, and got the birds. So apparently, most likely, it got Romeo and Juliet. So it started mostly with Romeo. With her, basically, even though he didn't show any signs of having it, Juliet ended up catching it, but she she didn't directly get it until eventually she got it badly in the end. So it's kind of heartbreaking, you know what I mean? It's heartbreaking to lose an animal that had a good lifespan and such. Well, like, because they're about 3 year old right now. So apparently they were around 3 when they died. So kind of feel bad for them, really. We even put them in like a little jury box, well, a biggish sort of one. So we kind of put them in there together since they loved each other. So we put them in there and such. We had to put like a bunch of like cotton bud around them or whatever to like some sort of bedding, sort of, you know what I mean, to make them feel comfortable. And then and apparently I put a bit of white paper on it and whatever, and actually drew a picture on each side of the paper, on the box. And then I put rest in peace in the middle. Kind of like to signal, that what they actually look like, before they died. So I had to like copy the drawing on each of them, and I actually even wrote their names above each picture on which ones they were on the box. Yeah, so Romeo was a nice blue, nice lovely blue budgie, and Juliet was a lovely yellow budgie. Even though she was a bit feistier than Romeo. Romeo was a bit more gentle. So it really is horrible to see him die. Especially with the flu going around like this, which makes me feel bad, for losing them and such. So at the moment, the only pets I have now are the snakes. So as soon as I lost the birds, I had to go and check with the snakes, see if they were okay. And when I actually found out that Shadow was moving and whatever, and I was speculating that Sky would probably be asleep, and even basically thinking that, because if, any one of them died, they would be eating each other. So I was thinking, as soon as I saw Shadow move, I was like, phew, okay, he's okay, and whatever. So it looks like the other one will be okay too. So that kinda made me okay, even though Shadow has one white eye. I basically felt like, okay, yeah, he's fine. So they're both fine. So they're the only animals in the house right now that are actually okay. So just the corn snakes at the moment. Uh, it is devastating and whatever. I mean, the animal I worry right now is Molly. She's in a worse condition right now, like I stated before. She's going through something, which I reckon she won't be able to survive and whatever at one point. Now, I do think one day she probably will possibly end up going through a seizure or something, like one that she might not, recover from. I mean, I actually have that suspicion as well because I actually think it as well at some point. Like, one day I actually think, it could happen to me one day. Like, I could end up passing away in my sleep, because of that, because of seizures, because seizures usually kill people. So I think it could actually be one of the deaths of Molly, which is my aunt's dog. But I do worry for her a lot, unfortunately. So it's just the amount of deaths. I don't like it because I don't like, when animals die, because it kind of worries me, and then it worries about the next ones that could actually die along with it. Now I actually worry about Molly's friend Lumi, her adopted sister, because she would be heartbroken. But she'd have Oliver, after the passing, whatever, so she'd have another dog in her place, and such. So, I mean, it is sad, really. I was offered to get another bird, and I actually turned it down and said no. I was asked about a cockatiel, and I said no, I've had one before, I can't do it again, because cockatiels need a bigger cage and whatever, so I don't think I'd get one of them. I also was asked if I would get, like, a budgie again. I was like, I don't know. Because I wasn't too sure and whatever at the time, because, the cage was terrible, really, that we're in. I didn't really like it, really. Because there wasn't enough room to make like a comfortable bed or something, like a hut or something for them to rest in, whenever they want to go to sleep and whatever, stuff like that. So, yeah, stuff like that, really. So yeah, pretty much, again, pet, apparently the whole, because, I kind of feel like, because I know, basically, with some pets, they die from pet shops, really, some of them, well, not all of them, but some do, unfortunately. Yeah, so... Yeah, so maybe I'll be able to get over, the amount of things that have happened this year or something. Yeah, it is devastating news for pets, for how many pets that have died this year. So, some point I will be doing a little funeral, thing out the, back garden, at some point. Like a little, thing for them, both Annabelle and, Romeo and Juliet, since they did actually die. Now, apparently, now, Annabelle's bit of ashes would be in the back garden, so as for Romeo and Juliet, they actually will be buried, buried in the back garden, since most of the pets that died in the back garden actually are buried still there, along with a bunch of other animals, like the guinea pigs, because with the guinea pigs, there's actually babies as well that were buried, because it was an unexpected death, unfortunately. You have the cockatiel that's buried in there, and, like a couple of other pets that actually did die, like Laurel and Hattie and such, they actually did die, years back, however, so, so mostly, yeah, they're pretty much buried out the back, and more pets will probably get added to the cemetery, which we call it a cemetery because we class it as like a grave, because of that, So, yeah, so again, I will possibly make a video or something, like a live stream or something, showing us doing, like, the ceremony thing, uh, to actually, light candles and stuff like that to, kind of respect their, their grave sites and whatever, and such, and allow their spirit to wander into the afterlife, which is most likely to do with ghosts, which I believe, because usually they would wander. Now, I actually reckon for a definite, because Romeo and Juliet died. Now, I actually think that as ghosts, Annabelle and the Budgies probably met each other, and whatever, again, reunited. So since I actually know birds usually fly south, I reckon that Romeo and Juliet probably did fly south, to meet other birds that also died, so then, they'd have other birds to chat to, since they like that sort of thing. But as for Annabelle, she'd most likely have Judy, since she was an old dog that died years ago. So most likely she'd have her to talk to. So it's kind of like a win-win for the pets, really. Especially the poor guinea pig that had all the babies die with her. Well, most of them. Even though some died inside her, and then some actually did try to survive, even though they couldn't survive for long without their mother's milk. So it's kind of like that, you know what I mean? So, yeah. So so apparently again, the next pet I have to keep an eye on is the two snakes, to make sure they don't suffer the same fate as, as Annabelle and the two birds or whatever. I'm hoping they don't suffer a similar fate, because I do not want them to die as well, because having them die as well is kind of like an added death, and it's not nice, it's not great, it's horrible. Because it adds on to more of it. So yeah, so apparently that's pretty much all I've really got to say. Unfortunately, I won't be playing Minecraft today because, like I said, I've just lost Romeo and Juliet, so I'm gonna have this little break to myself. So this video is just a reminder of, that the birds died and whatever, so it's kind of like one of those days, really. Kind of like to more on the death and whatever, so apparently that's all I gotta say. So I possibly will make more if anything else happens, like any more videos over any certain things or whatever, or and such. I will be streaming again. I will be streaming tomorrow, with Minecraft, and such, since I probably would be a bit calmed down by then. So yeah.